Did update 3.1 fix aim assist and gunplay? That's what we're going to have a look at today, and I did notice a stealth nerf to movement as well. So if you're interested in that, then do stick around till the end. I'm not going to go over the full patch notes though, I'm sure others have done that already, so instead I'll briefly share my impressions on the update. As always, feel free to leave a like if you enjoy this type of content and sub for more 2042. So starting off with weapon changes, I did manage to test the recoil patterns before the update went live, and these are all the weapons I've tested. To keep it simple, all guns are using their standard ammunition type here, and apart from the red dot, no other attachments were used. So as you can tell, there are a few standout changes here, namely the LCMG. Before the update, it had a lot less vertical recoil, especially when compared to the PKP, but now they're essentially matching if not identical. The LCMG does appear to have less spread though, but that makes sense when you take into account the weaker damage model and rate of fire. So DICE have actually nerfed the LCMG with the standard rounds, but I can't say the same for any other ammo type as I didn't look into those. So for mid to long range engagements, you're better off picking the PKP for the fact it offers a higher damage model, rate of fire and bipod. Currently, the LCMG is more so a close quarter LMG when you attach the short barrel and close quarter ammo. The PKP's recoil pattern appears to be similar as well, but when you compare them side by side, the PKP received a substantial reduction in recoil, which has improved its performance during sustained fire. It now takes a lot longer to reach the maximum recoil point, and when it does, it's a lot more stable and controllable compared to previously. So holding down the trigger is considerably less punishing, and you won't lose as much accuracy over time. The PKP was my favorite weapon in the game before the update, and this update has definitely made it much more fun to use. Definitely a good change in my opinion. The other weapon that stood out to me is the PBX. The amount of recoil appears to be similar, but the recoil pattern is now veering off to the left instead of just being a straight vertical line. I'm assuming it was done to compensate for the reduction in spread, perhaps to prevent it from becoming too accurate. Despite that, the PBX still remains highly accurate and offers the best range possible for an SMG. Additionally, there were some hipfire improvements for all SMGs as well, but I've not noticed a major difference while playing. Maybe I do need a bit more playtime, but I would like to see some changes made to the laser sight. It should be turned on at all times with the option to turn it off, not the other way around. I believe that would greatly help reduce the frustrations of having to turn it on each time you redeploy and make the attachment a bit more viable as well. The other SMGs like the MP9, K30 and the PP29 all had a reduction in spread too. As you can see, fewer bullets are deviating from their patterns, but nothing really significant. The only thing I did pick up on is the MP9's extended mag has the correct amount of rounds per mag now. Before the patch you had 26 rounds per mag, but now you get the full 30 rounds per mag, and even with the extra 4 rounds the recoil remains very much the same. And while we are on the topic of ammunition, it's probably worth mentioning that the S4 had its drum magazine reduced from 51 to 41, and the trade-off for that is you get 2 extra magazines instead of just the 1. I would have preferred an extra magazine without the size reduction, but it's a decent change nonetheless. And lastly, there seems to be a noticeable difference between the M5A3 patterns. There's considerably less spread and horizontal recoil, but at the cost of more vertical recoil. I don't mind that, as vertical recoil is a lot easier to handle than horizontal recoil. So as long as you can control the recoil, more shots will land on target right now compared to previously. Unfortunately though, I didn't test the initial vertical recoil values and how fast the weapons reset, but tap firing and burst firing will reward you more so now than before. Overall, the weapons feel a lot better and far more satisfying to use. The reduction in spread seems to be the main factor in making weapons feel less unpredictable. I've got to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of the gunplay before this update. I thought the spread values were too excessive and kind of hampered the range of most weapons. And on these gigantic open maps, it does feel quite frustrating having to mag dump to kill a single player past 30 meters. So this patch has certainly improved the gunplay and is very much heading in the right direction. Hopefully there's more to come after the holiday break, and I'm hoping the swiftness continues. Now then, let's talk about aim assist. Thursday's update was meant to improve the consistency of aim assist during gameplay. So far, I've not noticed a difference. If anything, it may feel a little bit less consistent, but that could be just down to placebo. During my games, I've had a few moments where aim assist would just stop working. There's probably an example playing in the background, As you can see, it works fine against Dozer, but then I get no slowdown when I'm trying to aim at Boris. Interestingly enough, I get no hit markers, which could potentially mean the inconsistencies are tied to hit registration or some sort of animation. That's just me having a guess, but most likely I probably just missed all my shots there. Another thing I've noticed is the strength of aim assist has increased substantially, so much so I've had to turn down aim assist to prevent it from interfering with my aim. For instance, I've had a lot of issues with prone players where my aim would just get stuck above their heads, which then requires me to use more force, which often led to me overshooting the target. It feels like 100% aim assist is fighting against you instead of aiding you. I did speak about this in my previous video and how the AA bubble is too large, causing your aim to stick to the edges of the player. I probably have another example playing in the background where player strafes in hipfire and I'm pushing my right stick so hard in both directions to get on target that I'm overshooting. So that's the biggest problem I'm having with aim assist right now. It seems to be slowing down my aim at the wrong times and causing more problems than not. When you combine that with the inconsistency, it does turn out to be quite a rough experience. As far as I remember, I didn't have many issues during the beta, so I would say I'm progressively having a harder time aiming with each update. So that definitely needs to be sorted out quite soon. Snap aim assist appears to be buffed too, so if you're struggling to get on target, then I would strongly recommend turning it on just for now to help bypass the massive bubble and resistance you get from the slowdown. And once they do fix all the issues with aim assist, you can then go back to your usual AA settings. And as a reminder, it's important to remember that a handful of Portal servers may have aim assist disabled, so if you're looking for a more consistent experience, All Out Warfare is probably where you want to be. Perhaps DICE may need to look at that just to offer a more consistent experience across all modes. The ability to remove snap aim assist should remain, of course. I believe that's what most players have issues with, not so much the slowdown per se. All in all, the inconsistencies with aim assist are still present. The AA bubble remains large and the slowdown is pretty much working overtime to keep me off target. And lastly, the stealth nerf I was referring to is the removal of always use reversal sprint from the settings. I'm not too sure if this was done intentionally, but I like to think it's just a small mishap. I believe the update before this one made a few improvements to the UI, and I'm guessing they may have forgotten to add it back in perhaps. Either way, players that do change their mind can't disable it, and those who would like to use it can't enable it right now. So if it turns out the omission of auto attack sprint was deliberate, then that certainly would be a massive stealth nerf to movement, but only for newcomers. I'm sure most of you guys aren't too fussed about that, but do share your thoughts on aim assist and gunplay. And that pretty much concludes today's video. Feel free to leave a rating, sub for more 2042 content, and I'll see you later. Take care.